You're listening to Middle East expert and keynote speaker Neil Lazarus, live from Jerusalem.
Hi and welcome to another podcast. This is Neil Lazarus from awesomeseminars.com. First of all, thank you for all of those people who have written, sent me tweets, contact me on Snapchat, looked up my Instagram account. Oh my God, downloaded my app. Yes, there's a Neil Lazarus app too. It's free. Been in contact and overwhelmed me. We've just finished a major season of speaking, of seminars, of workshops, of training, and people really feeling the buzz of awesome seminars. I want to look at, and this is a short broadcast, I don't have much time, but I wanted to get this out to you, is to talk to you about BDS, the Boycott, Divestment, Sanctions Movement. I'm angry. I'm very angry. They annoy me. They say they're liberal. They say they're progressive. The reality is that BDS is not liberal. It's not progressive. It doesn't call for being pro-Palestinian. It's anti-Israel. And perhaps one of the more annoying issues is very much both the hypocrisy and how malicious the organization is itself. The BDS movement doesn't recognize Israel. It calls for its destruction. It has a double standard between Israel and everyone else. Give me an example. Send me one example. I want to hear it. Of when the BDS movement campaigned for Palestinians who were being dispossessed and killed in Syria or elsewhere. It's only if Israel is allegedly violating something, then they get out on the streets. And even when we're not violating something, Israel gets the BDS movement gets out on their streets. BDS initiates environments on campuses which are against the freedom of discussion. When I speak, when I talk on campuses worldwide and also in Israel, I say, you can agree, you can disagree. I, Neil Lazarus, I'm very critical of some of the policies of the Israeli government. I'm happy to do a podcast. But the reality is they're not criticizing, they're not seeking to improve the situation, but rather to call for the destruction of the state of Israel and replace it with a one-state solution. The biggest victims of BDS are actually the Palestinians themselves. But perhaps the most annoying, remarkably cynical or misuse of anyone's cause is the use of apartheid. Let's listen to Nelson Mandela himself. This is the bit they don't play of Nelson Mandela.
I went further, however, to say that the support for Yasser Arafat in his struggle does not mean that the ANC has ever doubted the right of Israel to exist as a state legally. We have stood quite openly and firmly for the right of that state to exist within secured borders. But
you heard it. Support of Israel within secure borders. Yes, Nelson Mandela supported the rights of Palestinians. Yes, Nelson Mandela supported Yasser Arafat and Colonel Gaddafi and many others. But he also supported the right of Israel to live in secure borders. That part of the quote is always edited. So again, I've dedicated these podcasts to a greater understanding, a real understanding of the full picture of the Middle East. Whether it's pro-Israel, it's critical of Israel. What I'm looking for is a much deeper understanding based on an education of the Middle East, which is critical, yet at the same time fair.
You're listening to Middle East expert and keynote speaker Neil Lazarus, live from Jerusalem.
So one of the things that I need you to do is to prepare for a campaign against hatred. Yeah, look, they're on their way. These guys who say we don't want to have anything to do with Israel, nothing Israel can do is right, they're out there. I think we need to show how progressive dialogue is, that Palestinians and Israelis should be talking to each other, that a call for BDS is actually isolating people. So number one, whenever you can, wherever you can, I recommend setting a pro-peace, pro-Israel tone. In other words, go set up cultural events, have readings, have buy-ins, where I've seen that before. I think I was in Scotland recently where they set up a whole stall just talking about Israel. For right and for wrong, have those leaflets out there and campaign, and let's try and raise that level of discussion. Create a climate where there is something always going on about Israel in a positive manner. Make it fun. Offer tickets to visit Israel. Whatever you can do, keep the issue of Israel out there in a positive manner. Number one thing I always say, and I love that question when it's asked in my seminars, is, so what happens if nothing's happening locally? That's the time to be active. Reach out to other groups, especially groups which aren't necessarily related. I love it. The BDS has become buddies with every group that you can talk about. They say, well, the Palestinians are like Black America, that Ferguson is like Gaza. Ferguson and Gaza have got nothing like each other. Rosa Parks sat on a bus. She didn't blow it up. That's the issue. They call for simplification. Let's talk for education, let's talk for dialogue, and let's call for those people who support those. At the same time as building relationship, you need to be involved. If you're involved in a campus, it's all about politics. You've got to get involved in that student government. If you don't bring in that student government, and if you're not bringing in the cultural events, whether it's dance, art exhibitions and concerts, whether you're not involved in the media at the university, all these are going to make a difference. Know your information. Listen to these podcasts. We've had podcasts on settlements. We're going to have more podcasts. We're looking at some of the big myths, and I think that you will find it very, very useful. This podcast is dedicated to anyone. Not everyone who supports Israel 100%. Most of Israel has a debate. Look at our Knesset. We have so many parties because everyone has a different opinion. I think it was Golda Meir that once said it's being a prime minister of a country of, at that time, 5 million prime ministers. That's not the issue. The issue is that we have to stop the hatred and the delegitimization of Israel itself. So one, let's have messages which are pro-dialogue, pro-peace, and at the same time show that Israel, isn't perfect itself. One important tactic is the tactic of preventing BDS before it happens. I have no problem with it. Yep, you can prevent people on the issue of hate speech actually talking. And actually, some of the most efficient ways of countering BDS have been through legislation. We need to stop people spreading hatred. That's not acceptable if it's against gays. It's not acceptable if it's against blacks. It's not acceptable if it's against Hispanics. It's not acceptable. Hatred's not acceptable. And I think that when people say that you cannot talk about Israel, you can't say, this is something I relate to. This is part of my cultural identity. That there's a place for positive Israel on my campus, that support doesn't have to negate the narratives of others, that Israelis and Palestinians should be working together for better understanding. I think that's just wrong. For the students out there, I want to go back to something I said before, and I speak quickly, I know. I think you really do, if you're a student, have to start building relationships on campus with other groups, and in particular with student government. You've got to encourage pro-Israeli students to run for student government, to ask candidates what their views are on BDS, and get them to commit to freedom of speech on campus itself, to create and publicize why there should be a freedom of speech, why Israel shouldn't be boycotted, and also to demand some form of transparency of the leadership. It is unacceptable today that Jewish students, Christian students, Muslim students who want to express themselves and express their desire for an Israel are not being allowed to do so. If you're interested in dealing with the challenge of BDS, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to arrange a phone call to come speak, to help you counter it. Like I said, it's not a matter of being pro-Israel, pro-Palestinian. It's a matter of being pro-dialogue and wanting to have an environment where Israelis and Palestinians can have a better hope for a better future for both those Israeli and Palestinian children.
If you like this, why not invite Neil Lazarus to speak at your synagogue, church or school? Check out his website, awesomeseminars.com.